1. The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. Old Tom Bombadil was a merry fellow. Bright blue his jacket was, and his boots were yellow. Green were his girdle, and his breeches all of leather. He wore in his tall hat a swan-wing feather. He lived up under hill, where the withy windle ran from a grassy well down into the dingle. Old Tom in summertime walked about the meadows gathering the buttercups, running after shadows, tickling the bumblebees that buzzed among the flowers, sitting by the waterside for hours upon hours. There his beard dangled long down into the water. Up came Goldberry, the river woman's daughter, pulled Tom's hanging hair. In he went a-wallowing under the water lilies, bubbling and a-swallowing. "Hey, Tom Bombadil, whither are you going?" said fair Goldberry. "Bubbles you are blowing, frightening the finny fish and the brown water rat, startling the dabchicks and drowning your feather hat. You bring it back again, there's a pretty maiden," said Tom Bombadil. "I do not care for wading. Go down. Sleep again where the pools are shady far below willow roots. Little water lady, back to her mother's house in the deepest hollow swam young Goldberry." But Tom, he would not follow. On knotted willow roots he sat in sunny weather, drying his yellow boots and his draggled feather. Up woke Willow Man, began upon his singing, sang Tom fast asleep under branches swinging. In a crack caught him tight. Snick! It closed together, trapped Tom Bombadil, coat and hat and feather. Ha! Tom Bombadil! What be you a-thinking, peeping inside my tree, watching me a-drinking deep in my wooden house, tickling me with feather, dripping wet down my face like a rainy weather? You let me out again, Old Man Willow. I am stiff lying here. They're no sort of pillow, your hard crooked roots. Drink your river water. Go back to sleep again like the river daughter. Willow Man let him loose when he heard him speaking, locked fast his wooden house, muttering and creaking, whispering inside the tree. Out from Willow Dingle Tom went walking on up the withy windle. Under the forest eaves he sat a while a-listening. On the boughs piping birds were chirruping and whistling. Butterflies about his head went quivering and winking, until grey clouds came up, as the sun was sinking. Then Tom hurried on. Rain began to shiver, round rings spattering in the running river. A wind blew, shaken leaves chilly drops were dripping. Into a sheltering hole old Tom went skipping. Out came Badger Brock with his snowy forehead and his dark blinking eyes. In the hill he quarried with his wife and many sons. By the coat they caught him, pulled him inside their earth, down their tunnels brought him. Inside their secret house, there they sat a-mumbling, "Ho, Tom Bombadil, where have you come tumbling, bursting in the front door? Badger folk have caught you. You'll never find it out, the way that we have brought you. Now, old Badger Brock, do you hear me talking? You show me out at once. I must be a-walking. Show me to your back door under briar roses. Then clean grimy paws, wipe your earthy noses. Go back to sleep again on your straw pillow, like fair Goldberry and Old Man Willow." Then all the Badger folk said, "We beg your pardon." They showed Tom out again to their thorny garden, went back and hid themselves, a-shivering and a-shaking, blocked up all their doors, earth together raking. Rain had passed. The sky was clear, and in the summer gloaming old Tom Bombadil laughed as he came homing, unlocked his door again, and opened up a shutter. In the kitchen round the lamp moths began to flutter. Tom through the window saw waking stars come winking, and the new slender moon early westward sinking. Dark came under hill. Tom, he lit a candle. Upstairs creaking went, turned the door handle. Who? Tom Bombadil. Look what night has brought you. I'm here behind the door. Now at last I've caught you. You'd forgotten Barrow White dwelling in the old mound up there on hilltop with the ring of stones round. He's got loose again. Under earth he'll take you. Poor Tom Bombadil, Pale and cold he'll make you. Go out, shut the door, and never come back after. Take away gleaming eyes, take your hollow laughter. Go back to grassy mound, on your stony pillow lay down your bony head, like old man willow, like young goldberry, and badger folk in burrow. Go back to buried gold and forgotten sorrow. Out fled Barrow White through the window leaping, through the yard, over wall like a shadow sweeping, uphill wailing went back to leaning stone rings, back under lonely mound, rattling his bone rings. Old Tom Bombadil lay upon his pillow sweeter than goldberry, quieter than the willow, snugger than the badger folk or the barrow dwellers. Slept like a humming top, snored like a bellows. He woke in morning light, whistled like a starling, sang, "Come, dairy dole, merry dole, my darling." He clapped on his battered hat, boots, and coat and feather, opened the window wide to the sunny weather. Wise old Bombadil, he was a wary fellow. Bright blue his jacket was, and his boots were yellow. None ever caught old Tom in upland or in dingle, walking the forest paths, or by the withy windle, or out on the lily pools in boat upon the water. But one day Tom, he went and caught the river daughter, in green gown, flowing hair, sitting in the rushes, singing old water songs to birds upon the bushes. He caught her, held her fast. Water rats went scuttering, reeds hissed, herons cried, and her heart was fluttering. Said Tom Bombadil, "Here's my pretty maiden. You shall come home with me. The table is all laden. Yellow cream, honeycomb, white bread and butter, roses at the window sill and peeping round the shutter. You shall come under hill. Never mind your mother in her deep weedy pool. There you'll find no lover." Old Tom Bombadil had a merry wedding, crowned all with buttercups, hat and feather shedding. His bride with forget-me-nots and flag lilies for garland was robed all in silver green. He sang like a starling, hummed like a honey bee, lilted to the fiddle, clasping his river made round her slender middle. Lamps gleamed within his house, and white was the bedding. In the bright honey moon badger folk came treading, danced down under hill, and old man willow tapped at window pane. As they slept on the pillow, on the bank in the reeds, river woman sighing heard old Barrow White in his mound crying. Old Tom Bombadil heeded not the voices, taps, knocks, dancing feet, all the nightly noises, slept till the sun arose, then sang like a starling, "Hey, come dairy dole, merry dole, my darling," sitting on the doorstep chopping sticks of willow, while fair Goldberry combed her tresses yellow. 2. Bombadil goes boating. The old year was turning brown. The west wind was calling. Tom caught a beechen leaf in the forest falling. "I've caught a happy day blown me by the breezes. Why wait till morrow year? I'll take it when me pleases. This day I'll mend my boat and journey as it chances west down the withy stream, following my fancies. Little bird sat on twig. Willow, Tom, I heed you. I've a guess where your fancies lead you. Shall I go? Bring him word to meet you? No names, you tell tale, or I'll skin and eat you, babbling in every ear things that don't concern you. If you tell Willow Man where I've gone, I'll burn you, roast you on a willow spit. That'll end your prying." Willow Wren cocked her tail, piped as she went flying, catch me first. No names are needed. I'll perch on his hither ear. The message will be heeded. Down by mine, I'll say, just as sun is sinking. Hurry up. That's the time for drinking." Tom laughed to himself. "Maybe then I'll go there. I might go by other ways, but today I'll row there." He shaved oars, patched his boat. From hidden creek he hauled her through reed and sallow brake, under leaning alder, then down the river went, singing, "Silly sallow, flow withy willow stream over deep and shallow." We, Tom Bombadil, Whither be you going, bobbing in a cockle boat, down the river rowing? Maybe to Brandywine along the Withy Windle. Maybe friends of mine fire for me will kindle down by the Hayes End. Little folk I know there, kind at the day's end. Now and then I go there. Take word to my kin, bring me back their tidings. Tell me of diving pools and the fishes' hidings. Nay then, said Bombadil, I am only rowing just to smell the waterlight, not on errands going, Cocky Tom, mind your tub don't founder. Look out for willow snags. I'd laugh to see you flounder. Talk less, fisher blue. Keep your kindly wishes. Fly off and preen yourself with the bones of fishes. Gay lord on your bow, at home a dirty varlet living in a sloven house, though your breast be scarlet. I've heard of fisher birds beak in air a-dangling to show how the wind is set. That's an end of angling. The king's fisher shut his beak, winked his eye, a singing Tom passed under bow. Flash. Then he went winging, dropped down jewel blue a feather, and Tom caught it gleaming in a sun ray. A pretty gift he thought it. He stuck it in his tall hat, the old feather casting. Blue now for Tom, he said, a merry hue and lasting. Rings swirled round his boat, he saw the bubbles quiver. Tom slapped his oar, smack, at a shadow in the river. Hoosh! Tom Bombadil, 'tis long since last I met you. Turned water boatman, eh? What if I upset you? What? Why, Whisker lad, I'd ride you down the river. My fingers on your back would set your hide a shiver. Pish, Tom Bombadil. I'll go and tell my mother. Call all our kin to come. Father, sister, brother. Tom's gone mad as a coot with wooden legs. He's paddling down Withy Windle stream, an old tubber straddling. I'll give your otterfell to Barrow Whites. They'll tow you, then smother you in gold rings. Your mother, if she saw you, she'd never know her son, unless 'twas by a whisker. Nay, don't tease old Tom, until you be far brisker. Whoosh, said Otter lad, river water spraying over Tom's hat and all. Set the boat a-swaying, dived down under it, and by the bank lay peering, till Tom's merry song faded out of hearing. Old Swan of Elverhall sailed past him proudly, gave Tom a black look, snorted at him loudly. Tom laughed. You old cob, do you miss your feather? Give me a new one then. The old was worn by weather. Could you speak a fair word, I would love you dearer. Long neck and dumb throat, but still a haughty sneerer. If one day the king returns, in upping he may take you, brand your yellow bill, and less lordly make you. Old Swan huffed his wings, hissed, and paddled faster. In his wake bobbing on Tom went rowing after. Tom came to Withy Weir. Down the river rushing foamed into Windle Reach, a bubbling and a splashing. Bore Tom over stones spinning like a windfall, bobbing like a bottle cork, to the Hythe at Grindwall. Hoy! Here's Woodman Tom with his billy beard on. Laughed all the little folk of Hayes End and Brereton. Where, Tom? We'll shoot you dead with our bows and arrows. We don't let forest folk nor bogies from the Barrows cross over Brandywine by cockleboat nor ferry. Fie, little fat bellies. Don't ye make so merry. I've seen hobbit folk digging holes to hide 'em, frightened if a horny goat or a badger eyed 'em, afeard of the moony beams, their old shadows shunning. I'll call the orcs on you. That'll send you running. You may call Woodman Tom, and you can talk your beard off. 3 arrows in your hat, you were not afeard of. Where would you go to now? If for beer you're making, the barrels ain't deep enough in Brereton for your slaking. Away over Brandywine by Shireborne I'd be going, but too swift for cockleboat the river now is flowing. I'd bless little folk that took me in their wherry, wish them evenings fair and many mornings merry. Red flowed the Brandywine. With flame the river kindled, as sun sank beyond the shire, and then to grey it dwindled. Mythe steps empty stood, none was there to greet him. Silent the causeway lay, said Tom. A merry meeting. Tom stumped along the road as the light was failing. Rushy lamps gleamed ahead. He heard a voice him hailing. Whoa there! Ponies stopped, wheels halted sliding. Tom went plodding past, never looked beside him. Ho there! Beggarman tramping in the marish. What's your business here? Hat all stuck with arrows. Someone's warned you off, caught you at your sneaking? Come here. Tell me now what it is you're seeking. Shire ale, I'll be bound, though you've not a penny. I'll bid them lock their doors, and then you won't get any. Well, muddy feet. From one that's late for meeting away back by the Mythe, that's a surly greeting. You old farmer fat that cannot walk for wheezing, cart drawn like a sack, ought to be more pleasing. Penny wise tub on legs. A beggar can't be chooser, or else I'd bid you go, and you would be the loser. Come, maggot, help me up. A tankard now you owe me. Even in cockshut light an old friend should know me. Laughing they drove away, in Rushy never halting, though the inn open stood, and they could smell the malting. They turned down Maggot's lane, rattling and bumping, Tom in the farmer's cart dancing round and jumping. Stars shone on Bamfalon, and Maggot's house was lighted. Fire in the kitchen burned to welcome the benighted. Maggot's sons bowed at door, his daughters did their curtsy. His wife brought tankards out for those that might be thirsty. Songs they had and merry tales, the supping and the dancing. Goodman Maggot there for all his belt was prancing. Tom did a hornpipe when he was not quaffing. Daughters did the springle ring. Good wife did the laughing. When others went to bed in hay, fern, or feather, close in the ingle nook they laid their heads together, old Tom and muddy feet, swapping all the tidings from Barrow Downs to Tower Hills, of walkings and of ridings, of wheat ear and barley corn, of sowing and of reaping, quee tales from Bree, and talk at smithy, mill, and cheaping, rumours in whispering trees, south wind in the larches, tall watchers by the ford, shadows on the marches. Old Maggot slept at last in chair beside the embers. Ere dawn Tom was gone, as dreams one half remembers, some merry, some sad, and some of hidden warning. None heard the door unlocked. A shower of rain at morning his footprints washed away. At Mythe he left no traces. At Hayes End they heard no song nor sound of heavy paces. 3 days his boat lay by the Hythe at Grindwall, and then one morn was gone back up Withy Windle. Otter folk, Hobbits said, came by night and loosed her, dragged her over weir, and upstream they pushed her. Out from Elvid our old swan came sailing, in beak took her painter up in the water trailing, drew her proudly on. Otters swam beside her round old Willowman's crooked roots to guide her. The king's fisher perched on bow, on thwart the wren was singing, merrily the cockle boat homeward they were bringing. To Tom's Creek they came at last. Otter lad said, "Wish now. What's a coot without his legs, or a finless fish now? Oh, silly sallow willow stream, the oars they'd left behind them. Long they lay at Grindwall Hythe for Tom to come and find them." 3. Errantry. There was a merry passenger, a messenger, a mariner. He built a gilded gondola to wander in, and had in her a load of yellow oranges and porridge for his provender. He perfumed her with marjoram and cardamom and lavender. He called the winds of Argosies with cargoes in to carry him across the rivers 17 that lay between to tarry him. He landed all in loneliness where stonily the pebbles on the running river Derelin goes merrily forever on. He journeyed then through meadowlands to shadowland that dreary lay, and under hill and over hill went roving still a weary way. He sat and sang a melody, his errantry a-tarrying. He begged a pretty butterfly that fluttered by to marry him. She scorned him and she scoffed at him, she laughed at him unpitying. So long he studied wizardry and sigildry and smithying. He wove a tissue airy thin to snare her in. To follow her he made him beetle leather wing and feather wing of swallow hair. He caught her in bewilderment with filament of spider thread. He made her soft pavilions of lilies, and a bridal bed of flowers, and of thistledown to nestle down and rest her in. And silken webs of filmy white and silver light he dressed her in. He threaded gems in necklaces, but recklessly she squandered them and fell to bitter quarrelling. Then sorrowing he wandered on, and there he left her withering, as shivering he fled away. With windy weather following on swallow wing, he sped away. He passed the archipelagos where yellow grows the marigold, where countless silver fountains are, and mountains are of fairy gold. He took to war and foraying, a harrying beyond the sea, and roaming over Belmary and Thelemy and Fantasy. He made a shield and morion of coral and of ivory, a sword he made of emerald, and terrible his rivalry with elven knights of airy and fairy, with paladins that golden-haired and shining-eyed came riding by and challenged him. Of crystal was his habergeon, his scabbard of chalcedony. With silver tipped at plenilune his spear was hewn of ebony. His javelins were of malachite and stalactite. He brandished them, and went and fought the dragonflies of paradise, and vanquished them. He battled with the Dumbledores, the Hummerhorns, and honeybees, and won the golden honeycomb, and running home on sunny seas in ship of leaves and gossamer with blossom for a canopy, he sat and sang, and furbished up and burnished up his panoply. He tarried for a little while in little isles that lonely lay, and found there naught but blowing grass. And so at last the only way he took, and turned, and coming home with honeycomb, to memory his message came, an errand too. In daring do and glamoury he had forgot them, journeying and tourneying, a wanderer. So now he must depart again and start again his gondola, forever still a messenger, a passenger, a terrier, a roving as a feather does, a weather-driven mariner. 4. Princess Me. Little Princess Me, lovely was she as in elven song is told. She had pearls in hair all threaded fair. Of gossamer shot with gold was her kerchief made, and a silver braid of stars about her throat. Of moth weblight all moonlit white, she wore a woven coat, and round her kirtle was bound a girdle sewn with diamond dew. She walked by day under mantle grey and hood of clouded blue, but she went by night all glittering bright under the starlit sky, and her slippers frail of fishes' mail flashed as she went by to her dancing pool, and on mirror cool of windless water played. As a mist of light in whirling flight, a glint like glass, she made wherever her feet of silver fleet flicked the dancing floor. She looked on high to the roofless sky, and she looked to the shadowy shore. Then round she went, and her eyes she bent, and saw beneath her go a princess, she as fair as me. They were dancing toe to toe. She was as light as me, and as bright. But she was, strange to tell, hanging down with starry crown into a bottomless well. Her gleaming eyes in great surprise looked up to the eyes of me. A marvelous thing, head down to swing above a starry sea. Only their feet could ever meet. For where the ways might lie to find a land where they do not stand, but hang down in the sky, no one could tell nor learn in spell in all the elven lore. So still on her own, an elf alone, dancing as before with pearls in hair, and kirtle fair, and slippers frail of fishes' mail went me. Of fishes' mail and slippers frail and kirtle fair, with pearls in hair went she. 5. The man in the moon stayed up too late. There is an inn, a merry old inn beneath an old grey hill, and there they brew a beer so brown that the man in the moon himself came down one night to drink his fill. The ostler has a tipsy cat that plays a 5-stringed fiddle, and up and down he runs his bow, now squeaking high, now purring low, now sawing in the middle. The landlord keeps a little dog that is mighty fond of jokes. When there's good cheer among the guests, he cocks an ear at all the jests and laughs until he chokes. They also keep a horned cow as proud as any queen, but music turns her head like ale, and makes her wave her tufted tail and dance upon the green. And oh, the row of silver dishes and the store of silver spoons. For Sunday there's a special pair, and these they polish up with care on Saturday afternoons. The man in the moon was drinking deep, and the cat began to wail. A dish and a spoon on the table danced, the cow in the garden madly pranced, and the little dog chased his tail. The man in the moon took another mug, and then rolled beneath his chair, and there he dozed and dreamed of ale, till in the sky the stars were pale, and dawn was in the air. The ostler said to his tipsy cat, "The white horses of the moon, they neigh and champ their silver bits, but their master's been and drowned his wits, and the sun'll be rising soon." So the cat on his fiddle played Hey Diddle Diddle, a jig that would wake the dead. He squeaked and sawed and quickened the tune, while the landlord shook the man in the moon. "It's after 3, he said. They rolled the man slowly up the hill and bundled him into the moon, while his horses galloped up in rear, and the cow came capering like a deer, and a dish ran up with a spoon. Now quicker the fiddle went deedle-dum-diddle. The dog began to roar, the cow and the horses stood on their heads. The guests all bounded from their beds and danced upon the floor. With a ping and a pong the fiddle strings broke. The cow jumped over the moon, and the little dog laughed to see such fun, and the Saturday dish went off at a run with the silver Sunday spoon. The round moon rolled behind the hill as the sun raised up her head. She hardly believed her fiery eyes, for though it was day, to her surprise, they all went back to bed. 6. The man in the moon came down too soon. The man in the moon had silver shoon, and his beard was of silver thread, with opals crowned and pearls all bound about his girdle stead. In his mantle grey he walked one day across a shining floor, and with crystal key in secrecy he opened an ivory door. On a filigree stair of glimmering hair, then lightly down he went, and merry was he at last to be free on a mad adventure bent. In diamonds white he had lost delight. He was tired of his minaret of tall moonstone that towered alone on a lunar mountain set. He would dare any peril for ruby and beryl to broider his pale attire, for new diadems of lustrous gems, emerald and sapphire. He was lonely too, with nothing to do but stare at the world of gold and hark to the hum that would distantly come as gaily round it rolled. At plenilune in his argent moon, in his heart he longed for fire, not the limpid lights of wan selenites. For red was his desire, for crimson and rose and ember glows, for flame with burning tongue, for the scarlet skies in a swift sunrise when a stormy day is young. He'd have seas of blues, and the living hues of forest green and fen, and he yearned for the mirth of the populous earth and the sanguine blood of men. He coveted song, and laughter long, and viands hot, and wine, eating pearly cakes of light snowflakes and drinking thin moonshine. He twinkled his feet as he thought of the meat of pepper and punch galore, and he tripped unaware on his slanting stair, and like a meteor, a star in flight, ere your one night flickering down he fell from his laddery path to a foaming bath in the windy bay of Bell. He began to think, lest he melt and sink, what in the moon to do, when a fisherman's boat found him far afloat to the amazement of the crew, caught in their net, all shimmering wet in a phosphorescent sheen of bluey whites and opal lights and delicate liquid green. Against his wish, with the morning fish, they packed him back to land. "You had best get a bed in an inn," they said. "The town is near at hand, Only the knell of one slow bell high in the seaward tower announced the news of his moonsick cruise at that unseemly hour. Not a hearth was laid, not a breakfast made, and dawn was cold and damp. There were ashes for fire, and for grass the mire, for the sun a smoking lamp in a dim back street. Not a man did he meet, no voice was raised in song. There were snores instead, for all folk were arbiter and still would slumber long. He knocked as he passed on doors locked fast, and called and cried in vain, till he came to an inn that had light within, and he tapped at a window pane. A drowsy cook gave a surly look, and "What do you want?" said he. "I want fire and gold and songs of old and red wine flowing free." "You won't get them here," said the cook with a leer, "but you may come inside. Silver I lack and silk to my back, maybe I'll let you bide. A silver gift the latch to lift, a pearl to pass the door. For a seat by the cook in the ingle nook it cost him 20 more. For hunger or drouth naught passed his mouth till he gave both crown and cloak. And all that he got, in an earthen pot broken and black with smoke, was porridge cold and 2 days old to eat with a wooden spoon. For puddings of Yule with plums, poor fool, he arrived so much too soon, an unwary guest on a lunatic quest from the mountains of the moon. 7. The Stone Troll. Troll sat alone on his seat of stone, and munched and mumbled a bare old bone. For many a year he had gnawed it near, for meat was hard to come by. Done by, gum by. In a cave in the hills he dwelt alone, and meat was hard to come by. Up came Tom with his big boots on. Said he to Troll, "Pray, what is yon? For it looks like the shin o' my nuncle Tim, as should be a lion in graveyard. Caveyard, paveyard. This many a year has Tim been gone, and I thought he were lying in graveyard." "My lad," said Troll, "this bone I stole. But what be bones that lie in a hole? Thy nuncle was dead as a lump o' lead, afore I found his shin bone. Tin bone, thin bone. He can spare a share for a poor old troll, for he don't need his shin bone," said Tom. "I don't see why the likes o' thee without axe and leave should go making free with the shank or the shin o' my father's kin. So hand the old bone over. Rover, trover, though dead he be, it belongs to he. So hand the old bone over. For a couple o' pins," says Troll, and grins, "I'll eat thee too, and gnaw thy shins. A bit o' fresh meat will go down sweet. I'll try my teeth on thee now. He now, see now. I'm tired o' gnawing old bones and skins. I've a mind to dine on thee now." But just as he thought his dinner was caught, he found his hands had hold of naught. Before he could mind, Tom slipped behind and gave him the boot to larn him. Warn him, darn him. A bump o' the boot on the seat, Tom thought, would be the way to larn him. But harder than stone is the flesh and bone of a troll that sits in the hills alone. As well set your boot to the mountain's root, for the seat of a troll don't feel it. Peel it, heel it. Old Troll laughed when he heard Tom groan, and he knew his toes could feel it. Tom's leg is game since home he came, and his bootless foot is lasting lame. But Troll don't care, and he's still there with the bone he boned from its owner. Dunner, boner, Troll's old seat is still the same, and the bone he boned from its owner. 8. Perry the Winkle. The lonely Troll he sat on a stone and sang a mournful lay. Oh why must I live on my own in the hills of far away? My folk are gone beyond recall and take no thought of me. Alone I'm left, the last of all from Weathertop to the sea. I steal no gold, I drink no beer, I eat no kind of meat, but people slam their doors in fear whenever they hear my feet. Oh, how I wish that they were neat, and my hands were not so rough. Yet my heart is soft, my smile is sweet, and my cooking good enough. Come, come, he thought, this will not do. I must go and find a friend. A walking soft I'll wander through the shire from end to end. Down he went, and he walked all night with his feet in boots of fur. To delving he came in the morning light, when folk were just astir. He looked around, and who did he meet but old Mrs. Bunce, and all with umbrella and basket walking the street. And he smiled and stopped to call, "Good morning, ma'am." "Good day to you. I hope I find you well?" But she dropped umbrella and basket too, and yelled a frightful yell. Old Pot, the mayor, was strolling near. When he heard that awful sound, he turned all purple and pink with fear, and dived down underground. The lonely troll was hurt and sad. "Don't go," he gently said, but old Mrs. Bunce ran home like mad, and hid beneath her bed. The troll went on to the marketplace, and peeped above the stalls. The sheep went wild when they saw his face, and the geese flew over the walls. Old Farmer Hog, he spilled his ale, Bill Butcher threw a knife, and Grip his dog, he turned his tail and ran to save his life. The old troll sadly sat and wept outside the lockhole's gate, and Perry the Winkle up he crept and patted him on the pate. "Oh, why do you weep, you great big lump? You're better outside than in." He gave the troll a friendly thump, and laughed to see him grin. "Oh, Perry the Winkle boy," he cried, "come, you're the lad for me. Now if you're willing to take a ride, I'll carry you home to tea." He jumped on his back and held on tight, "And off you go," said he. And the Winkle had a feast that night, and sat on the old troll's knee. There were pikelets, there was buttered toast, and jam, and cream, and cake, and the Winkle strove to eat the most, though his buttons all should break. The kettle sang, the fire was hot, the pot was large and brown, and the Winkle tried to drink the lot, though he should drown. When full and tight were coat and skin, they rested without speech, till the old troll said, "I'll now begin the bakers are to teach, the making of beautiful crampsome bread, of bannocks light and brown. And then you can sleep on a heather bed with pillows of owlets down." "Young Winkle, where have you been?" they said. "I've been to a fulsome tea, and I feel so fat, for I have fed on crampsome bread," said he. "But where, my lad, in the shire was that? Or out in Bree?" said they. But Winkle he up and answered flat, "I ain't a-going to say, but I know where," said Peeping Jack. I watched him ride away. He went upon the old trolls back to the hills of far away. Then all the people went with a will, by pony, cart or moke, until they came to a house in a hill and saw a chimney smoke. They hammered upon the old troll's door. "A beautiful crampsome cake, oh bake for us, please, or two or more. Oh bake." They cried, "Oh bake." "Go home, go home," the old troll said. "I never invited you. Only on Thursdays I bake my bread, and only for a few. Go home. Go home. There's some mistake. My house is far too small, and I've no pikelets, cream, or cake. The Winkle has eaten all. You Jack and Hog, old Bunce and Pot, I wish no more to see. Be off. Be off now, all the lot. The Winkle's the boy for me." Now Perry the Winkle grew so fat through eating of crampsome bread, his waistcoat bust, and never a hat would sit upon his head. For every Thursday he went to tea, and sat on the kitchen floor, and smaller the old troll seemed to be, as he grew more and more. The Winkle a baker great became, as still is said in song. From the sea to Bree there went the fame of his bread, both short and long. But it weren't so good as the crampsome bread, no butter so rich and free, as every Thursday the old troll spread for Perry the Winkle's tea. 9. The Mulips. The shadows where the mulips dwell are dark and wet as ink, and slow and softly rings their bell, as in the slime you sink. You sink into the slime, who dare to knock upon their door, while down the grinning gargoyles stare and noisome waters pour. Beside the rotting river strand the drooping willows weep, and gloomily the gawcrows stand croaking in their sleep. Over the Murloc mountains a long and weary way, in a mouldy valley where the trees are grey, by a dark pool's borders without wind or tide, moonless and sunless, the mulips hide. The cellars where the mulips sit are deep and dank and cold, with single sickly candle lit, and there they count their gold. Their walls are wet, their ceilings drip, their feet upon the floor go softly with a squish flap flip as they sidle to the door. They peep out slyly. Through a crack their feeling fingers creep, and when they've finished, in a sack your bones they take to keep. Beyond the Murloc mountains, a long and lonely road, through the spider shadows and the marsh of toad, and through the wood of hanging trees and the gallowsweed, you go to find the mulips, and the mulips feed. 10. Oliphant, grey as a mouse, big as a house, nose like a snake. I make the earth shake as I tramp through the grass. Trees crack as I pass. With horns in my mouth I walk in the south, flapping big ears. Beyond count of years I stump round and round, never lie on the ground, not even to die. Oliphant am I, biggest of all, huge, old, and tall. If ever you'd met me, you wouldn't forget me. If you never do, you won't think I'm true. But old Oliphant am I, and I never lie. 11. Fastatokalon. Look, there is Fastatokalon, an island good to land upon, although 'tis rather bare. Come, leave the sea, and let us run, or dance, or lie down in the sun. See, gulls are sitting there. Beware, gulls do not sink. There they may sit, or strut and prink. Their part it is to tip the wink if anyone should dare upon that isle to settle, or only for a while to get relief from sickness or the wet, or maybe boil a kettle. Ah, foolish folk who land on him, and little fires proceed to trim and hope perhaps for tea. It may be that his shell is thick, he seems to sleep, but he is quick, and floats now in the sea with guile. And when he hears their tapping feet, or faintly feels the sudden heat, with smile he dives, and promptly turning upside down he tips them off, and deep they drown, and lose their silly lives to their surprise. Be wise. There are many monsters in the sea, but none so perilous as he, old horny Fastatokalon, whose mighty kindred all have gone, the last of the old turtle fish. So if to save your life you wish, then I advise, pay heed to sailors' ancient lore, set foot on no uncharted shore, or better still, your days at peace on Middle-earth in mirth fulfill. 12. Cat. The fat cat on the mat may seem to dream of nice mice that suffice for him, or cream, but he free, maybe, walks in thought unbowed, proud, where loud roared and fought his kin, lean and slim, or deep in den in the east feasted on beasts and tender men. The giant lion with iron claw in paw, and huge ruthless tooth in gory jaw. The pard dark-starred, fleet upon feet, that oft soft from aloft leaps on his meat where woods loom in gloom. Far now they be, fierce and free, and tamed is he, but fat cat on the mat, kept as a pet, he does not forget. 13. Shadow Bride. There was a man who dwelt alone. As day and night went past, he sat as still as carven stone, and yet no shadow cast. The white owls perched upon his head beneath the winter moon. They wiped their beaks and thought him dead under the stars of June. There came a lady clad in grey in the twilight shining. One moment she would stand and stay, her hair with flowers entwining. He woke, as had he sprung of stone, and broke the spell that bound him. He clasped her fast, both flesh and bone, and wrapped her shadow round him. Then nevermore she walks her ways by sun or moon or star. She dwells below where neither days nor any nights there are. But once a year, when caverns yawn and hidden things awake, they dance together, then till dawn, and a single shadow make. 14. The Horde. When the moon was new and the sun young of silver and gold, the gods' son, in the green grass they silver spilled, and the white waters they with gold filled. Ere the pit was dug or hell yawned, ere dwarf was bred or dragon spawned, there were elves of old, and strong spells under green hills in hollow dells. They sang as they wrought many fair things, and the bright crowns of the elf kings. But their doom fell, and their song waned, by iron hewn and by steel chained. Greed that sang not, nor with mouth smiled, in dark holes their wealth piled, graven silver and carven gold. Over elven home the shadow rolled. There was an old dwarf in a dark cave, to silver and gold his fingers clave. With hammer and tongs and anvil stone he worked his hands to the hard bone, and coins he made, and strings of rings, and thought to buy the power of kings. But his eyes grew dim, and his ears dull, and the skin yellow on his old skull. Through his bony claw with a pale sheen the stony jewels slipped unseen. No feet he heard, though the earth quaked, when the young dragon his thirst slaked, and the stream smoked at his dark door. The flames hissed on the dank floor, and he died alone in the red fire. His bones were ashes in the hot mire. There was an old dragon under grey stone. His red eyes blinked as he lay alone. His joy was dead and his youth spent. He was knobbed and wrinkled, and his limbs bent in the long years to his gold chained. In his heart's furnace the fire waned. To his belly's slime gems stuck thick, silver and gold he would snuff and lick. He knew the place of the least ring beneath the shadow of his black wing. Of thieves he thought on his hard bed, and dreamed that on their flesh he fed, their bones crushed, and their blood drank. His ears drooped and his breath sank. Mail rings rang. He heard them not. A voice echoed in his deep grot. A young warrior with a bright sword called him forth to defend his hoard. His teeth were knives, and of horn his hide, but iron tore him, and his flame died. There was an old king on a high throne. His white beard lay on knees of bone. His mouth savoured neither meat nor drink, nor his ears song. He could only think of his huge chest with carven lid, where pale gems and gold lay hid in secret treasury in the dark ground. Its strong doors were iron bound. The swords of his thanes were dull with rust, his glory fallen, his rule unjust, his halls hollow, and his bowers cold. But king he was of elvish gold. He heard not the horns in the mountain pass. He smelt not the blood on the trodden grass. But his halls were burnt, his kingdom lost. In a cold pit his bones were tossed. There is an old hood in a dark rock, forgotten behind doors none can unlock. That grim gate no man can pass. On the mound grows the green grass. There sheep feed and the larks soar, and the wind blows from the seashore. The old hood the night shall keep, while earth waits and the elves sleep. 15. The Sea Bell. I walked by the sea, and there came to me, as a star beam on the wet sand, a white shell like a sea bell. Trembling it lay in my wet hand. In my fingers shaken I heard waken a ding within, by a harbour bar a buoy swinging, a call ringing over endless seas, faint now and far. Then I saw a boat silently float on the night tide, empty and grey. It is later than late. Why do we wait? I leapt in and cried, bear me away. It bore me away, wetted with spray, wrapped in a mist, wound in a sleep, to a forgotten strand in a strange land. In the twilight beyond the deep, I heard a sea bell swing in the swell, dinging, dinging, and the breakers roar on the hidden teeth of a perilous reef. And at last I came to a long shore. White it glimmered, and the sea simmered with star mirrors in a silver net. Cliffs of stone pale as rule bone in the moon foam were gleaming wet. Glittering sand slid through my hand, dust of pearl and jewel grist, trumpets of opal, roses of coral, flutes of green and amethyst. But under cliff eaves there were glooming caves, weed-curtained, dark and grey. A cold air stirred in my hair, and the light waned as I hurried away. Down from a hill ran a green rill. Its water I drank to my heart's ease. Up its fountain stair to a country fair of ever eve I came, far from the seas, climbing into meadows of fluttering shadows. Flowers lay there like fallen stars, and on a blue pool, glassy and cool, like floating moons the nenuphars. Alders were sleeping, and willows weeping by a slow river of rippling weeds. Gladden swords guarded the fords, and green spears, and arrow reeds. There was echo of song all the evening long down in the valley. Many a thing running to and fro. Hares white as snow, voles out of holes, moths on the wing with lantern eyes. In quiet surprise brocks were staring out of dark doors. I heard dancing there, music in the air, feet going quick on the green floors. But wherever I came it was ever the same. The feet fled, and all was still. Never a greeting, only the fleeting pipes, voices, horns on the hill. Of river leaves and the rush sheaves I made me a mantle of jewel green, a tall wand to hold, and a flag of gold. My eyes shone like the star sheen. With flowers crowned I stood on a mound, and shrill as a call at cock-crow proudly I cried, "Why do you hide? Why do none speak, wherever I go? Here now I stand, king of this land, with gladden sword and reed mace. Answer my call, come forth all, speak to me words, show me a face." Black came a cloud as a night shroud. Like a dark mole groping I went, to the ground falling, on my hands crawling with eyes blind and my back bent. I crept to a wood, silent it stood in its dead leaves. Bare were its boughs. There must I sit, wandering in wit, while owls snored in their hollow house. For a year and a day there must I stay. Beetles were tapping in the rotten trees, spiders were weaving, in the mould-heaving puffballs loomed about my knees. At last there came light in my long night, and I saw my hair hanging grey. Bent though I be, I must find the sea. I have lost myself, and I know not the way, but let me be gone. Then I stumbled on, like a hunting bat shadow was over me. In my ears dinned a withering wind, and with ragged briars I tried to cover me. My hands were torn and my knees worn, and years were heavy upon my back. When the rain in my face took a salt taste, and I smelled the smell of sea wrack. Birds came sailing, mewing, wailing. I heard voices in cold caves, seals barking, and rocks snarling, and in spout holes the gulping of waves. Winter came fast. Into a mist I passed, to land's end my years I bore. Snow was in the air, ice in my hair, darkness was lying on the last shore. There still afloat waited the boat, in the tide lifting, its prow tossing. Weary I lay as it bore me away, the waves climbing, the seas crossing, passing old hulls clustered with gulls, and great ships laden with light, coming to haven, dark as a raven, silent as snow, deep in the night. Houses were shuttered, wind round them muttered, roads were empty. I sat by a door, and where drizzling rain poured down a drain, I cast away all that I bore. In my clutching hand some grains of sand, and a seashell silent and dead. Never will my ear that bell hear, never my feet that sure tread. Never again, as in sad lane, in blind alley and in long street ragged I walk. To myself I talk, for still they speak not, men that I meet. 16. The last ship. Ferial looked out at 3 o'clock. The grey night was going. Far away a golden cup clear and shrill was crowing. The trees were dark and the dawn pale, waking birds were cheeping. A wind moved cool and frail through dim leaves creeping. She watched the gleam at window grow, till the long light was shimmering on land and leaf. On grass below grey dew was glimmering. Over the floor her white feet crept, down the stair they twinkled, through the grass they dancing stepped, all with dew besprinkled. Her gown had jewels upon its hem, as she ran down to the river, and leaned upon a willow stem, and watched the water quiver. A kingfisher plunged down like a stone in a blue flash falling. Bending reeds were softly blown, lily leaves were sprawling. A sudden music to her came, as she stood there gleaming, with free hair in the morning's flame on her shoulders streaming. Flutes there were, and harps were rung, and there was sound of singing, like wind voices keen and young, and far bells ringing. A ship with golden beak and oar and timbers white came gliding. Swans went sailing on before, her tall prow guiding. Fair folk out of Elvenland in silver grey were rowing, and three with crowns she saw there stand, with bright hair flowing. With harp in hand they sang their song to the slow oars swinging. Green is the land, the leaves are long, and the birds are singing. Many a day with dawn of gold this earth will lighten, many a flower will yet unfold, ere the cornfields whiten. Then whither go ye, boatmen fair, down the river gliding, to twilight and to secret lair in the great forest hiding? To northern isles and shores of stone, on strong swans flying, by cold waves to dwell alone with the white gulls crying? Nay, they answered, far away on the last road faring, leaving western havens grey, the seas of shadow daring, we go back to Elvenhome, where the white tree is growing, and the star shines upon the foam on the last shore flowing. To mortal fields say farewell, middle earth forsaking. In Elvenhome a clear bell in the high tower is shaking. Here grass fades and leaves fall, and sun and moon wither, and we have heard the far call that bids us journey thither. The oars were stayed, they turned aside. Do you hear the call, Earth Maiden? Ferial, Ferial, they cried. Our ship is not full laden. One more only we may bear. Come, for your days are speeding. Come, Earth Maiden Elven fair, our last call heeding. Ferial looked from the river bank, one step daring. Then deep in clay her feet sank, and she halted staring. Slowly the elven ship went by, whispering through the water, I cannot come. They heard her cry, I was born Earth's daughter. No jewels bright her gown bore, as she walked back from the meadow under roof and dark dawn, under the house shadow. She donned her smock of russet brown, her long hair braided, and to her work came stepping down. Soon the sunlight faded. Year still after year flows down the 7 rivers. Cloud passes, sunlight glows, reed and willow quivers as morn and eve. But never more westward ships have waded in mortal waters as before, and their song has faded.